If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with another CD collection update for you. Yeah, these next few updates are going to be jammed-packed with a lot of shit. So this update, as well as the update that will be coming out sometime within the next few weeks, are going to be things I got from my trip while I was up in Toledo back in about a little bit after Labor Day in September. And actually, before I get into the update, I also put in the title, I'm going to tell you the story of stories that I shared, well, the day I had while I was up in Toledo. It was on a Monday. I can't remember the exact date, but it was the Monday of the trip. I got up early in the morning with my folks, and we went near downtown Toledo to a record shop that I went up there, or that I went to the last time we were there, which was 2 years ago, called Allied Record Exchange, and met up with one Necrotic Nick from Thralls of Metal, and him and I and my folks, we talked for a little bit outside before my folks just went off on their day, pretty much the rest of the day and most of the night. And me and Nick went into the shop, and I went a little ham. Nick only bought 2 CDs at the shop. He bought the new Cryptopsy and a Rune Magic album. I came out of that store with a shit ton of stuff. So that was how the day started, and then I rode with Nick over to his place, and I still am like 2 rooms full of CDs, which is just absolutely insane. I mean, you look behind me, you think my collection's big? You think that shit's big? I ain't nothing like Nick, so there you go. I got to see his actual collection in person. Let me move this camera a bit. There we go. And I got to see the Thrall set in person, which was really fucking sweet. Needless to say, lots of liquor bottles up around the walls of that fucking basement, which was really crazy. But yeah, I got to see the Thrall set, sat at the table, and saw the fucking notes they had written. I forgot what albums they had written notes for when they left the notebooks there, when they went to Full Terror Assault. Because it was actually the day after Nick and John got home from Full Terror Assault that they made it back to their homes. And yeah, needless to say, I think Nick was maybe a tiny bit tired from all the fucking driving from Cave and Rock, Illinois back home. But needless to say, I pretty much hung out with Nick the entire day. Hung out at his place. Really cool house, and fucking posters beyond anything. And flags and shit all over the place. But yeah, now I want to get some flags and posters for this office once I eventually get everything rearranged, once I get the brand new shelf and set built for my videos and streams going forward. But yeah, hung out in Nick's place for a little bit, and then him and I, we left to go near town to an awesome fucking diner. Trying to remember, Nick's Cafe is the name of the diner, and also, no, Nick does not own this cafe, even though he probably should. And we met up with Joe, Shredlord. He came over, and we all ate lunch together. Joe, I remember he had like a Mediterranean omelet. Nick had a scrambler sampler thing, which was fucking massive. I went with boneless fried chicken and a mountain of mashed potatoes. And the food was pretty good, but after seeing Nick get that scrambler, it's like, oh man, the next time I come back and we eat, I'm going to have one of them fucking scramblers, because that shit looked amazing! But yeah, we were sitting eating, Nick and Joe and I, we were talking about, like, how when Nick got home from Full Terror Assault, about how the I Am Morbid, or really it's Morbid Angel, at least to me, playing Covenant and all this stuff. And I swear to God, every time I heard Joe speak, I about pissed myself laughing, and I kind of played along with his humor. Like, when we were finished eating, we were trying to lay out the tips we wanted to give our waitress, who was super cool. And Joe's like, here, I'll leave a tip. And I'm like, just a tip? Ooh. He thought that was pretty funny. But Nick actually went to like a speedway right by, so I rode with Joe back to Nick's place, so I got to talk with Joe a little bit longer, and then it was just me and him at Nick's place for a little while, and showing Joe everything I got. And then as the three of us were talking, Miller comes into the house, so it's four of us in the place. We were just sitting around chatting, shooting the shit, and Miller actually gave me one of the new Thrall shirts, which, thank you so much. You didn't have to. I could have bought it for myself, but thank you for giving me one of the first ones you put out there, and I've been wearing it proudly whenever I'm at work. I'm shocked I haven't recorded a video with me in that shirt. It will happen pretty soon if I can remember. But, yeah, Joe and Josh, awesome dudes. And then, of course, after that, I just stayed at Nick's house. We were just jamming tunes, looking around, and then he started playing me some stuff that I had not heard of or didn't get around to checking out before. Like, he played me Gorephilia, which I was really digging, and I need to get some of their work. Black Breath, who I'd heard the name but never really listened to much of their music. I need to get some Black Breath in my collection. And then, like, whenever we'd be in the car, he'd play, like, Mutoid Man, which was pretty trippy, to say the very least. And then towards the end of the day, we drove over, I believe it was to Joe's house, to meet up with Jammin' John and his girlfriend. And only hung out there for like maybe an hour, hour and a half maybe, because I had to get back to the cabin I was staying at before 10 o'clock. So, hung out with them for a little bit, and of course, John and Jess, they're awesome. And of course, as you're seeing throughout this portion, the pictures that I took with the guys during the trip. If you don't follow my Instagram, I post the pictures over there too. But if you don't want to follow me on Instagram, yeah, the pictures are being shown right now, if I can remember to plop them in. But yeah, so basically, the Thralls dudes are fucking awesome, so it was cool to get to meet most of them. I didn't get to meet Rin, but maybe next time I go back up there, I'll meet Rin. But, yeah, that was basically that day. But the trip as a whole, we was only there for 2 days, but I managed to get a bunch of stuff. So this first update of 2 updates from the Toledo trip, these are all going to be the used CDs that I got. I pretty much got like almost 40, and like half of them were used, half of them were brand spanking new. So for this first update of the 2 updates for Toledo, it's going to be the used stuff. Now, kicking things off, the first, 5 CDs are all going to be from the same band, because I'd been talking about getting a certain era of this band's catalog for a long time, and I finally got them since they were all used and they were all really cheap and good shape, and that is Aerosmith. I decided I wanted to get all of the 70s Aerosmith albums, because 70s Aerosmith, I think, is some of the most underappreciated hard rock of all time, whereas most people, I feel like mainstream-wise, only know Aerosmith through their material in the late 80s and 90s and the Walk This Way collab they did with Run DMC. But their 70s stuff is pretty cool, and we kick off with their second album, Get Your Wings. I remember, and actually the fucking thing is upside down, so I have to flip it over to even read it. But yeah, I remember, the 2 songs I remember the most off of this were Same Old Song and Dance and their cover of Train Kept A-Rollin', which are fantastic. But yeah, I mean, this is the second album after the debut, so this was 74. Yeah, 1974. But yeah, big, kind of a big leap in musicianship from this point going forward. But yeah, Get Your Wings. And then next up I get one of the big ones I wanted, Toys in the Attic, which, in my opinion, the best Aerosmith album ever. Well, it's neck and neck with the next one I'm going to show, but Toys in the Attic, after all, you've got 3 big hits, the title track, Sweet Emotion, and Walk This Way, but those are awesome tracks, but you also got Round and Round, Adam's Apple. Yeah, even, I'd say a little heavier on this album, to the point where you could almost call it like proto-metal, even though it's still really hard rock. But yeah, fucking Toys in the Attic, it's a killer album. And I remember first getting into Sweet Emotion, courtesy of the Guitar Hero Aerosmith game that came out in, what was that, 2008, I think? Because I used to play Guitar Hero and Rock Band all the time, and that was how I discovered so many bands as a teenager. But yeah, Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic. And now we get to the other album I think that could make a run for best album in Aerosmith's catalog, and that is Rocks. And definitely the heaviest Aerosmith album too. Like, this is probably the closest Aerosmith got to being heavy metal. Honestly, I could say it's a heavy metal album, because it was 1976. It's pretty heavy for that time. After all, Back in the Saddle, Rats in the Cellar, Nobody's Fault, which Testament would cover, Last Child. But then again, even the closer, Home Tonight, one of the best ballads of the 70s for sure. So yeah, this is like a good like roller coaster ride of emotion and just energy. And arguably the heaviest Aerosmith album of all time. Rocks. Sure does rock. Next up we get to Draw the Line, which was the follow-up in 77. And yeah, this album cover, though, I will say this album cover has always been kind of strange. Like, it looks like a kid drew this, even though I know it was a famous artist who did this cover. But pretty much like the one song I remember from this album is Kings and Queens. And then, of course, there was Milk Cow Blues on here, but yeah, again, a lot of these albums that I get, I haven't fully checked out just because I've just been so busy with so many things. But eventually, if I ever end up ranking Aerosmith, which probably be a while before I even think about doing that, but yeah, this would be a pretty underrated one. After all, it came out after a big one with Rocks. But if you ask me, perhaps to a lot of people's opinions, the most underrated Aerosmith album, the follow-up, Night in the Ruts. Play on Riding the Nuts, but it's Night in the Ruts. So yeah, this one's interesting. Like, a song called Cheesecake, which is pretty fucking funny. Like, perhaps the best song to eat a piece of cheesecake to. What else do we have on here? Bone to Bone, Coney Island, White Fish Boy, Reefer Head Woman. Like, some of these titles, a little bit weird. Then again, the band was pretty much drugged up by this point, 1979. But yeah, for a lot of people, this is maybe the most underrated Aerosmith album, and it ended their big run in the 70s before they kind of free-falled a while until the end of the 80s. But yeah, all the Aerosmith that I could really ever want. Alright, now let's get into some real heavy shit now, because next up, we got Alkaloid with, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce this, the Malkuth Grimoire. So yeah, this is the debut album from this German progressive technical death metal band. I did review the last album that came out just about a month ago. Yeah, a little bit after I got this. Actually, it was that week that I went up there to Toledo and I got this. New Alkaloid came out later in that week. So yeah, pretty much right after I got this, I checked out the new album. I haven't listened to this one yet, but I've heard this is a fantastic debut. But I still need to get the new album and the one that came out in, oh god, what was that? 2018, I think. But yeah, Alkaloid, just a fucking killer band featuring current and former members of Obscura, Necrophagist, among many other projects. Mostly Christian Munzner and Hannes Grossman. That's basically all you need to know. But yeah, Alkaloid. Kick-ass band. Next two we got are from Amorphis. I'm getting closer to completing the Amorphis catalog. I haven't really checked out the stuff that I've gotten because I want to see, maybe during the holidays when I have downtime, I'll probably sit back and listen to some Amorphis. But the albums that I did get, I got Eclipse, which was 2006. And let's see, what titles do we have on here? We got Two Moons, House of Sleep, Leave Sears, Same Flesh Brother Moon, Stone Woman. That's an interesting title. But yeah, basically, eventually I'm going to check this out, because at some point I'm going to rank Amorphis, because like the recent stuff and the early stuff are awesome. It's just the middle period I need to dive into. And this is definitely during that middle period, so I got Eclipse, and then I got The Beginning of Times, which was 2011, so I think I've got everything from here to Halo, which came out last year, so I'm pretty much caught up on like the more recent stuff. I just need to get the remainder of the 90s and 2000s material, and I would have everything from Amorphis. But, yeah, I'm going to be curious, again, to check this one out, especially since the bonus track's called Heart's Song, which makes me think it's going to be like this big, like, proggy, mellow ballad, which I don't mind, especially when you got great vocals like you do with Tommy Yaltsen here in Amorphis. So, yeah, Beginning of Times. Okay, now this one's a bit of an oddity right here. I picked this one up because it was only 50 cents, and Nick figured I would dig this, and that is Deadsoil, Forever the Enemy. This is an EP from a German melodic death metal / metalcore band. So basically this is kind of like, if I were to guess, probably the German equivalent to Darkest Hour, because Darkest Hour is kind of in that middle ground between metalcore and melodic death metal. So yeah, I feel like I'll probably dig this whenever I get a chance to listen to it. But yeah, I mainly picked this one up because it was only worth 50 fucking cents. It was used, but it was in pretty good shape, so I was happy to get something relatively cheap and from an underground band. So yeah, Deadsoil. Alright, moving on next up, and this is one I've been needing to get for a couple of years now, because my good friend Scott from the Shadow Call podcast, a.k.a. It's Mr. Scott, such a huge fan of this band, and I've been sleeping on him forever, and that is GWAR, and I got Scumdogs of the Universe. And this one's actually, I think, a reissue from last year, I think, on Slave Pit Records. So, yeah, this is definitely going to be fun to go through once I get a chance to actually sit down and listen to the son of a bitch. But, yeah, fucking GWAR. I remember the first time I ever heard about GWAR was courtesy of Viva La Bam when they guest appeared, and oh my god, they were so fucking funny. Especially Dave Brocky sleeping in bed with Phil and April Margera going, "It's scary upstairs!" And they're like, "Aren't your friends up there with you?" "They're not my friends." I thought that was great. I fucking missed that show. I wish that would be on Paramount Plus or something, for God's sakes, because I want to rewatch some of those episodes. But yeah, Scumdogs of the Universe by GWAR. Now this next one's going to be especially relevant because this time next week, I'm going to be ranking Judas Priest. But this is not a Judas Priest album, this is Halford with Resurrection, the big solo album that came out in 2000 by Rob Halford after that, well, disastrous band called 2. He wanted to get back to his classic heavy metal roots and put this out. And holy shit, is this fantastic. Especially the first couple of tracks, and I can't remember which song it was that Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden actually does guest vocals on. So, yeah, pretty happy to have found this. And it was pretty cheap in the used bin, but it was in good shape. Once I was about ready to leave the store with what I had, and then I looked in the rock section and I saw this. I'm like, I need this. I've been wanting this album for years, so yeah, I'm glad I finally got it. I'll definitely check it out in full eventually. But yeah, from what I've heard, it is fantastic. So yeah, Halford. Resurrection. Alright, we got, actually, we still got, next two are going to be two different pairs. So the next pair is In Flames. No, not any of the new stuff. We're talking the In Flames that people loved In Flames for. The 90s and early 2000s. And I got Whoracle. Now, this actually, whenever I bought this, like, the disc was pretty much in good condition. Well, actually, let me double check. Yeah, it was in relatively good shape. But the case, it was one of them super jewel cases, but it was so fucked beyond repair, I had to replace it, which is why the spine's got like a couple of cuts up top, or not really cuts, but just where it was just only able to fit in a super jewel case. But it's mostly like up at the top and the bottom, I had to like try and cut short just to fit into this case, but it don't matter. Yeah, I got Whoracle. Then again, In Flames has always been one of those mellow death bands I've not really dove into too much. But definitely need to check out the 90s stuff even more. So yeah, this would probably be a fun listen when I get the chance. Same with the next one that I got, which was Colony, which I think came out after Whoracle. So yeah, and this is the Super Jewel case, but it was in a lot better shape than the Super Jewel case for Whoracle was. But yeah, Colony, I think a lot of people consider this the last amazing In Flames album. I don't know, I like songs off of Clayman. I think Clayman's still pretty good. But yeah, I'm just glad that I'm getting some of the good In Flames. So as far as the good In Flames, I'm only missing the first two albums. I think it was Lunar Strain and The Jester Race, and then I would have all the In Flames I really would want. I might give a Root to Remain, possibly, but I don't know. But yeah, Colony. Alright, and now we get to another pair, and this is, and actually I got quite a few albums from this band coming up in future updates, and that is, of course, Katatonia. First I got Viva Emptiness, which came out in 2013. Now, again, I haven't checked it out yet. Just like most of these albums, I just haven't had the time to really dive into because of so many other things. But Katatonia is definitely going to be a band that I'll rank in the future. It probably won't be in 2024, maybe 2025. I'll probably do a Katatonia ranking, but yeah, I'm just glad that I got Viva Emptiness, because I hear this is absolutely fantastic. But the next one I definitely have listened to, and I liked it, and that is The Fall of Hearts. I actually think I reviewed this album when it came out in 2016, and I know probably people will think I'm stupid for saying it, but I think I said this is what would happen if Breaking Benjamin were a prog metal band. Because, like, some of the tones kind of made me think of Breaking Benjamin, because there was a little bit of, like, an alternative metal twang to Katatonia on this album, but it was still very proggy at the same time. After all, I think this is the longest album in their catalog, but still, this is a brilliant fucking album. I remember checking this out, like I said, in 2016 and reviewing it. I think it made my year-end list. If not, I'm ashamed, because this is absolutely killer. Alright, now we only got 4 left, so we're running through this one kind of quick. But next up, this is another classic I've been needing to get forever. King Diamond, VI. I mean, it's fucking King Diamond. Do I really even need to go in depth about this? All you need to know, Eye of the Witch. Enough said, I'm just going to move on from there. Okay, alright. I haven't listened to everything off of this album. Again, I'm always busy. I am always fucking busy. But Eye of the Witch I have jammed so many times, and it's maybe my favorite King Diamond solo band song of all time. I don't know, there's a couple that could be in the running for that, but Eye of the Witch, definitely up there. But yeah, got some more King Diamond. And now to the next one, and this one is going to be another band you're going to see a lot coming up in future updates, and that is Monstrosity. And here I got their last album, Passage of Existence. So this one on Metal Blade. This came out 5 years ago. I didn't get to check this out when it came out, and I still need to listen to it, because I had been kind of listening to like a couple Monstrosity songs here and there, courtesy of not only the first two albums, which are fucking amazing, but also just out of curiosity to hear how Monstrosity were after Corpse Grinder left. And this is the last thing that's come out. Hopefully we can get a new album in 2024. But yeah, Monstrosity. And now to the penultimate album on the list, and that is Unearth with 3 in the Eyes of Fire. I am also missing Oncoming Storm, so I need to get Oncoming Storm, and even the new album, because that new album's fucking spectacular metalcore. But yeah, this 3 in the Eyes of Fire, again, haven't checked out fully, but from what I have heard, it is fucking great. After all, Unearth, not the typical metalcore band, like there's not really very many clean vocals, it's mostly all aggressive, but it's just this perfect mix of like hardcore breakdowns, but with like thrash metal, kind of melodic death metal, and classic heavy metal. Almost like a hybrid of, I would say, like, what are some bands I could compare to? Like Iron Maiden, At the Gates, I would dare even say Exodus, and even a little bit of like hardcore kind of mashed together, and you get Unearth. But yeah, 3 in the Eyes of Fire. And then the final album for this update, and the first of 2 from the Toledo trip, and that is Wilderun with Veil of Imagination. I checked out the new album that came out last year, which I think, if I remember, was called Epigon, and it was brilliant. So after checking that out, I'm like, okay, if I see a Wilderun album, I need to pick it up, because this band's fucking talented and incredible. Haven't listened to this yet, but I will at some point, because Wilderun's just such an awesome band to check out. But yeah, Veil of Imagination. And that does it for this collection update. Another one knocked out of the park. Sorry I didn't go in depth with a lot of these, because I just haven't had the time to listen to everything that I get, because, well, whenever you're doing discography rankings and reviewing new stuff, and you also kind of get earworms from a bunch of songs you check out before, but yeah, you get the idea. I just like getting stuff, and especially some of the good stuff. But anyways, so the next update, which will be out sometime in November, will be the second part of the Toledo trip of everything that I got. And then there will be an update coming out sometime in December of some recent stuff that I've gotten, including stuff that's on the way in the mail as we speak. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. What was your favorite album out of everything that I showed off? Let me know in the comments. And until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.